What you're doing isn't working. Depression is up. Suicide is up. Mental illness is up. People with feelings of hopelessness are up. They view their potential prospects more negatively than the generation before them. So this idea that everything needs to be shared at all times, it's not helping. The TikTok CEO, Shou Chu, is currently going to be testifying in front of I think it's congressional committee. It's always hard to keep track. You're not going to have the big names today. So this is like before the big boss. It's like in Bloodsport, where it's not the guy who flexes his pecs, but it's the guy who kind of looks like Mick Foley. Testifying right now before Congress because lawmakers are calling to ban the app of TikTok. Now, before I get to the clips here, I want to set this up for you. This is going to be the first generation of people, very likely, based on the science that we have, that is going to have a lower IQ than the previous generation. Now, let me explain to you why that likely is, and we'll give you the science, and we make all references publicly available. TikTok's a big part of it. I don't think that people are necessarily dumber. I think it's that their working memory, right? Your short-term memory is not nearly as efficient as it used to be because you're constantly bombarded with content. It's passive consumption of content. And we know what that does with the brain. We know how it rewires the brain. When you combine that with trans indoctrination and, of course, Chinese propaganda, you end up with an even greater problem than just your Aunt Tilly sending you a picture of a prairie dog's balls on Facebook, which, by the way, no one used to do physically, so I have my qualms with Facebook, but TikTok is worse.
Grandma.
So in the lead up to the hearing, Shou Chu released this video defending TikTok.
Hi, everyone. It's Shou here. I'm the CEO of TikTok. I'm here in Washington, D.C. today, and I have some news and updates to share with everyone here. Today, I'm super excited to announce that more than 150 million Americans are on TikTok. That's almost half of the U.S. coming to TikTok to connect, to create, to share, to learn, or just to have some fun. This includes 5 million businesses that use TikTok to reach their customers. And the majority of these are small and medium businesses. Some politicians have started talking about banning TikTok.
I think you mean to say in China, small business owners.
All 150 million of you. I'll be testifying before Congress later this week to share all that we're doing to protect Americans using the app and deliver on our mission to inspire creativity and to bring joy.
And by the way, part of the reason we were late is he was late today because he was too busy taping another Coco Melon segment. So he had a lot going on.
I think that's unfair. And I find that video offensive because that's actually Gwyneth Paltrow with a China doll mask.
Is it?
On, and that's and I have that on good authority, but I do trust him.
Yeah, there's also the candle. It smells like sewer food. They expect the United States, and by they I mean the rest of the world, and I was raised in Canada because this happens, right? They expect the United States to foot the bill for everybody else. Ukraine? Hey, how about you all step in, NATO? How about your neighbors do it? How about, hey, Europe, how about you do it? And why do we need to spend $100-something billion or commit $100-something billion before people want to admonish me? We've committed, but we haven't spent all of it. Okay, hold your comments. They want us to foot the bill there for the security of the world. And they want to blame the United States for standards that we apply, which they apply far more stringently themselves. To give you an example, TikTok it's not banned in the States yet. You know where it is banned? China.
China.
I had no idea.
It's not allowed in China for different reasons because all the trans, infiltration that happens there where people want you to text them on TikTok, slide into their DMs so your parents don't know and they can encourage you to transition. They believe that'll poison the minds of the youth in China, or as they call them, youth. So they don't allow it in China, but now they want to lobby the United States to allow it because they know the irreparable damage that it can do to young people. And by the way, I am more of a libertarian, but one of the few legitimate roles of government, to be clear, and this is something that you can use when people say, oh, so you're a conservative? What about roads? What about the military? The role of the government, certainly. The one legitimate role is to protect its citizens, both from exterior and interior threats. And I would say Chinese propaganda and some content that they won't even allow in their country because they've seen the studies. They know the irreparable damage. Yeah, I would say that falls under the legitimate purview of government to prevent and eliminate that threat. By eliminate, I mean the app, not Shou Chu.
It's also a technology that targets the brain stem.
Yeah.
We know how that works. It's called persuasion technology, and that's sort of that as advanced as it gets in that, and they're only getting better at hypnotizing young people.
You're talking about it. We don't sit down. We don't have an attention span. The reason that some cultures are good at math is because they can sit and work on a problem without getting distracted.
Right.
They'll just sit there and not give up on it. But when you have 5-second video, you're going to look at something and go to the next thing really quickly.
I have a 14-year-old daughter who's on TikTok like this, and when I ask her a question while she's on TikTok, it's as though I threw ice water on her back.
Yeah. Well, you should also stop doing that. That's part of your conditioning.
But it's the only way I can get her attention.
Yeah,
and then she just lifts a finger when I say hi, but she's still on her TikTok.
Yeah. There is destruction of the brain happening with passive consumption of content. And that's not hyperbole. You can check the references. We'll make them all publicly available, but I'll give you a snapshot here. So things like YouTube Shorts, Facebook Shorts, Instagram Reels, right? And TikTok, of course, was sort of the catalyst for all of this. Now, think of this for a second. These are the most powerful companies in the world. They all have access to the data and the science, and they know, ooh, hold on a second, 5-second views are not good. We shouldn't be encouraging people to do that. But you have TikTok, then Instagram follows, then Facebook follows, and YouTube follows. Not one of them said, wait a second, we know this is bad. Maybe we should stop. But take our word for it now when we tell you that we are telling the truth. Here's what's happening. And I believe this is a doctor, this next clip, or a neuroscientist, some kind of an expert, because I never graduated grade school, talking about what happens to your brain with these 5-second dopamine releases nonstop.
Dr. Ziegler, let's break it down. What is TikTok brain?
So TikTok brain is something that we know has been going on for years, but finally we have the research to support it. And what that means is that the brains, particularly the developing brain of young children and teens, is starting to get quite used to these short form videos, to the point where what the actual brain science behind it is that we see dopamine, which is your feel-good hormone. It is what is involved in addiction. It's what's involved in the reward circuitry of your brain. We see that it gets spiked up. So when they're looking through and they're scrolling through these real quick videos, that's what's happening. They're getting these dopamine hits that feel good, just the way it does when people sometimes use drugs or they use alcohol or they become addicted to other things. And so that's now kind of the frightening data to support what we've wondered all along, which is, yes, in fact, there is an actual neurological reason why looking at those kinds of videos is just so addicting.
Yeah, it's also gross. But let me give you a few quick points here that I think you need to know. We talked about this a long time ago with pornography. I think it was Gary Wilson. There's Your Brain on Porn. If you go to Mug Club, you'll be able to find it. By the way, it helped a lot of men break their pornography addiction. And by the way, that is a thing. I'm not just talking about the Sears catalog. I'm not talking about nudie magazines, but a tab and 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 a tab of porn is incredibly addictive, arguably more addictive than many drugs. But here's the research on this. Mobile phone addiction, short-term memory function. This is, you can go find this on ResearchGate or our website. They were found to significantly and negatively correlate with each other. A pediatrician, John Hutton, and he's a director at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, said it's like an infinite candy store. TikTok in particular is a dopamine machine. If you want kids to pay attention, they need to practice paying attention. Here's one more clip from a psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, talking about it. And then I'll give you a startling statistic regarding IQ.
When human beings are raised without much independence, but yes, with a phone, and they spend their childhood just interacting with a screen, and especially social media, I believe it messes up cortical development. The girls in particular, the rates of anxiety and depression are much more than 100% since 2010. The rate of self-harm, hospitalizations for self-harm, is nearly tripled for preteen girls. So Gen Z is in big, big trouble. They're hurting, they're fragile, they're not doing well in the workplace, managers are finding them very hard to work with. So we have a generation that's running off the rails.
Well, women being hard to work with, that's not necessarily new. I know what you're saying, but he's talking about it in a different facet. Here's the thing. IQ is down for the first time in 100 years.
That's crazy.
This comes from Daily Mail Q. I think you can bring it up. The biggest decrease was in people aged 18 to 22 and those less well educated. And here's the thing. The left says, well, hold on a second. Shout your period. Shout your gender, right? The world needs to see this because we need to stop. What you're doing isn't working. Depression is up. Suicide is up. Mental illness is up. People with feelings of hopelessness are up. They view their potential prospects more negatively than the generation before them. So this idea that everything needs to be shared at all times, it's not helping.
No.
It's not working. It is having deleterious effects.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.